Hi guys, it's Vicky, welcome back to my channel. Now this is going to be a comparison video, so I'm going to be comparing the Tarte Shape Tape, the original Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, to the e.l.f. 16-hour Camo Concealer. And I'm not really going to be comparing shades, I'm just going to be comparing how good they are at covering my dark circles. So I only have primer and foundation on my skin at the moment, so that's probably why I look a little bit one-dimensional. So I'm going to be applying one concealer under one eye and the other concealer under the other eye, and sort of seeing how good they are at covering these dark circles that I've got going on. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of a comparison between these two products then. So the first one is Tarte Shape Tape. I am in the shade Fair Light Neutral, which is 16N, and this is the original one. They have released a more hydrating one, but I have not tried that one, so I only have the original one. This is the concealer that's in my current project pan, and I do really like this concealer. I think it's a great shade match for me. I do think it is pretty good at covering my dark circles, but it can be a little bit drying at times, and I find that the best way to apply this is with a damp sponge. If I apply it with my fingers or a brush, I feel like the coverage isn't that good, and then that's when it can get a bit streaky and a bit creased looking. This retails at £20 and that's on QVC, so with Tarte it is quite difficult to get your hands on it in the UK. You can get it from QVC or you can actually get it from Tarte's own website, but then I think you have to spend over £40 or £45 to get the shipping over here. And then I also have the e.l.f. 16-hour Camo Concealer. Again, the original, because I think there is also a hydrating one of this. There is a big price difference between the two products though, so the Shape Tape was £20. This is £6, so this is a third of the price of the Tarte Shape Tape. I am in the shade Light Sand with this, and I also think that that is a good shade match for me. My thoughts on this concealer are that this is quite drying. It is more drying in my opinion than the Tarte Shape Tape, and I do feel like you have to work quite quickly with this concealer. But I think the coverage is quite good, and as the coverage is the thing that I'm going to be sort of questioning the most in this video, it will be interesting to see directly whether this one provides the same level of coverage as the Tarte Shape Tape. So let's zoom you in then. I'm going to put one under one eye and one under the other eye, and then I'm also going to be applying them with a small damp beauty blender, and I have two to make it even more fair, so I'm going to use one beauty blender under one eye and another one under the other eye. And I've got primer on and foundation, and I don't put foundation underneath my eyes. I try not to bring it up here, and I made extra care today when I put my foundation on not to do that and to leave it about here. So that's really going to test just how good these concealers are. And then what I do after that is that I powder, and I tend to just powder my T-zone and then under my eyes. So we'll see how the concealer looks with a bit of powder over the top as well. Alright, we are nice and close. So I'm going to start off with the Tarte Shape Tape under my left eye, and I like to leave it under my eye for about a minute and then I will blend it in. So I just tend to do about 4 lines like that. So let's leave this for a minute and then I will blend that in. Okay, so it's been a minute, so let's just start blending this in with a small beauty blender. And I'll try to leave it for a minute because that really helps to sort of, I guess, semi-set the concealer, so you're hopefully going to get pretty good coverage. If you put concealer on and then blend it straight away, the coverage isn't as good usually, but then you don't want to leave it too long where it becomes sort of impossible to blend it in. I do sometimes wear a colour corrector under my eyes, and then foundation, and then concealer, but I really want to test just how good this concealer is on its own without the help of a colour corrector. So I just like to use my finger sometimes at the end just to kind of push that product in a little bit more. Okay, so if we compare the two then, so this is without concealer, the Shape Tape has helped to brighten up the area, it's also provided some coverage as well, but there is still some darkness peeping through here in the inner corner of my eye. Now I do have quite bad dark circles, so that is why I do often tend to use a colour corrector as well, but I think that's done a pretty good job, and my eye on this side looks especially tired now, but overall I think that it has sort of blended in quite nicely and it's provided a fair amount of coverage. Alright, let's do the same thing on my other eye, but with the e.l.f. concealer this time. So again, let's go for 4 kind of large dots. So immediately, I'm just keeping an eye on the time, so I'll leave this for a minute now, but immediately I've noticed that this feels a lot drier compared to the Tarte Shape Tape. The Shape Tape went on a bit more evenly, I could just do one swipe, but with this side I had to go in a few times on each dot. And I'm going to use a separate beauty blender to try and keep this as sort of fair as possible, and it's been a minute now, so let's blend this in. Okay, this is a lot more difficult to blend than the Shape Tape. If you were to leave this on your face for any longer than a minute, that is going to be really difficult to blend in. Okay, so that is that side blended in as well. So Tarte Shape Tape and e.l.f. Camo Concealer, I think they have both provided a fairly even amount of coverage. I think those shades are fairly similar as well, so it was Fair Light Neutral in the Shape Tape and Light Sand in the e.l.f. But I think the coverage is pretty similar. So I've got a little handheld mirror here, but looking really closely at my under eyes, I think the Shape Tape just cinches it just a little bit more than the e.l.f. one. I'll see if I can get a little bit closer just to show you each eye a bit more clearly. Okay, so Shape Tape, so you can still see some blueness here, and then e.l.f. again, you can see some blue. Okay, so I'm just going to put a bit of powder underneath my eyes. I'm going to use a small face shape brush by Zoeva, and then I've got my Laura Mercier loose translucent setting powder. So I'll put some powder underneath my eyes and we can see how good the concealer looks underneath a light layer of powder. Okay, so this is what they look like with a light layer of powder over the top. So no creasing under my eyes, but you can still see sort of discoloration. Okay, so my overall thoughts then. I think they provided a fairly equal amount of coverage for my dark circles. Neither was amazing at covering my dark circles, but then again I have quite bad dark circles, so I do prefer to go in with a colour corrector first and then use a concealer over the top. So I would say that these are more medium coverage rather than full coverage, because I still have some blue and purpleness kind of peeking through under my eyes. Consistency of the products, the Shape Tape was a lot more fluid. I was able to just go line, line, line underneath my eye, but with the e.l.f. one I had to sort of pat a couple times for each dot underneath my eye, so it felt a lot more drier, the e.l.f. one, compared to the Tarte concealer. I thought the Shape Tape was a lot easier to blend out than the e.l.f. one. I left them both on for a minute, but I feel like if I was to leave the e.l.f. one on any longer than a minute, it would really be a lot more difficult to blend, because those dots had started to set quite firmly, so it was a little bit harder to properly blend out that concealer underneath my eyes. I don't think there's a marked difference between the two. I don't think that you could look at my eyes and say, yes, you're definitely using two different concealers. So I think if you were looking for a medium coverage concealer and you had to be a little bit more mindful as to your budget, then yes, I think the e.l.f. one is a good option, but I think the Tarte Shape Tape just slightly outperforms it because it is ever so slightly more hydrating and more easy to blend out. But there isn't really a huge difference between the two. I think they are pretty comparable, but yes, Tarte Shape Tape just slightly wins it for me. So if you're interested in buying either one of these concealers, I hope you have found this review helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have tried either of these concealers or even the hydrating versions of these concealers, please leave me a comment down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on these products. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I will see you again soon in my next one. Take care. Bye bye.